Hello, investors and traders, and welcome to the weekly market report. I'm AJ Monte. And before we get to the charts, I just want to thank you so much for following us and liking our videos and commenting. It is because of you that we are growing our channel. And I have to say, this has been one of the best trading years I've had in my career of over 42 years. And I could only hope that you're experiencing the same success. Our goal here at StickyTrades is to help our members learn how to read the charts, how to manage risk, how to trade options and what options are all about, and also managing risk in the option markets. And we pride ourselves on that ability to be able to train and help people even at the most basic level. So again, thank you so much. So now looking at the markets, we still have a few minutes left before the closing bell. You can see that DIA is showing a green candle right there. But if you look at the intraday 1 minute chart, you can see that we're starting to sell off here before the closing bell. And so I still have my downside target on DIA set down here at 455.57. And if you look at the weekly candle, you'll see that we still have one more day left. It's one of the benefits of getting this report out on Thursday. But looking at that weekly candle, we have a shooting star on lower volume. The stochastic is still heading lower. The CCI is overbought. And we have a fairly wide divergence from that 20-period moving average. So again, that downside target is still in place. Now, when we look at the industrials, this is $ DJI, you can see that the Dow is up just about 1/3 of a percentage point. But the big news is actually in the transports. Look at that. The transports are down over 2% with a massive red candle and a close below that 20-period moving average on much higher volume. So if you take out your trading checklist, I'm just going to draw this out as we look at the buy signals versus the sell signals. That big red candle is definitely on the sell side, and the close below that moving average is also a tell that we're most likely going to head lower in the transports. In addition to that, when you have the volume increasing on the way down, that is bearish. We have the oscillators here. The stochastic is heading lower. The CCI is heading lower and crossing below the zero line, also known as the momentum line. And it looks like it's on its way to test this support level down here right around the lows from October 13th. So that's what I believe we're going to see in the transports. Now, again, the transports, in my opinion, carry more weight with regard to forecasting the economy because the lifeblood of our economy goes through the highways pulled by the 12-wheelers. And so if the cargo is light and the trucking companies are suffering because of lack of profits and cargo to ship from point A to point B, that's giving us a negative read on the overall economy. Don't be fooled by the industrials because that's only 30 stocks that are more or less diversified, no longer industrials. There's a lot of technology stocks in the Dow Jones Industrial Average nowadays, but I do believe that's going to lead the market lower next week. Now, if I go and take a look at IWM, that's the ETF for the small cap, Russell 2000. Yesterday, we came close to hitting that downside target, but I'm keeping that in place due to the lack of volume there. Again, with only a few minutes left before the close, IWM is just about 50% of the volume from yesterday. And again, taking a look at the weekly chart, you'll see why I'm keeping that downside target in place. I mean, when you look at the bigger picture here, there's my target. Is that a long stretch? I don't think so. I think we're going to hit that target very soon. So I'm keeping that downside target in place for IWM. Looking at the QQQs, I'm going to start with the weekly here. You can see that we're still trading below this number 6 fan line right here. My downside target is that little itty bitty diagonal red line at 591.24. So this week's candle is a hanging man that followed a hanging man yesterday. And if you're not familiar with where the hanging man candle is, it's a bearish candle that has a small body with a longer shadow underneath the body that's about 1.5 to 2 times the length of that body. And so that's bearish. So there's that downside target right there, 591.24 for the Qs. Looking at SPY, that's the S&P 500 ETF. You can see same story. Downside target is that little diagonal line there. It's 653.89. Again, this isn't a hanging man per se because you need a longer shadow, but the volume is lacking for sure. We only have about 55% of the volume that we had last week. So I'm keeping that downside target in place. Now I'm going to switch back to the daily chart here because I want to talk a little bit about the VIX. The VIX dropped today and is showing this bearish candle, but this candle that we see here, like what we saw yesterday, is an inverted hammer. Take the hammer candle that you're used to seeing with the long shadow underneath and flip it on its head. Inverted hammers, when found at the end of a downward leg, are bullish, and that's bullish about 80% of the time. Now, I have an extreme upside target on the VIX at 36.85, and so I do believe that will hit because that's a gap fill up there. But if I zoom in here, I want to give the short-term VIX traders a target that's a little bit more reasonable with regard to the time frame. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm looking to the left as I draw it to the right. Why am I doing that? Well, look, there's my target. I'm just going to drop it right there. My upside target on the VIX, I'll round that up to $25, get rid of that little penny right there. So I have an upside target, shorter term target of $25. Why did I do it? And there's the closing bell right there for this Thursday, October 23rd. So why did I do that? If I duplicate this and move it to the left, you'll see that that's the same angle that we had and roughly the same time frame in this recent up leg here from October and throughout the middle of October. You see that? So all I did was duplicate that angle and the duration, and that's how I come up with my targets. Most of the time, I don't show everyone how I'm doing that. I'm just looking to the left as I draw it to the right. So again, if I'm looking to the left, I see that angle and that 5 or 6 day period, I'm basically going to duplicate that. And then I drop it. So it's not an exact science. It's basically extrapolating and giving your read on what you've seen happen in the past because history tends to repeat itself. Now, one other thing I want to talk about is Bitcoin, this /BTC. We have the CryptX team with Matt and CJ getting ready to launch here very soon. And they're going to be talking a lot about Bitcoin, a lot about crypto and the altcoins. You don't want to miss that. Matt and CJ are technicians. They are professional traders. And you definitely want to plug in, at least for the 2-week free trial. I'll leave a link to that registration page at the bottom in the description box below. And you could just send us a quick message. You don't have to give us any great details. Just give us a quick message that you're interested, and then we'll send you the registration link to get involved in that 2-week free trial. Now, I believe Bitcoin's going to go higher, and with that, a lot of the Bitcoin-related stocks will most likely go higher. Last Monday, I published an article through Zero Hedge talking about my 2026 predictions in the Bitcoin-related securities. So I'll put a link to that in the description box as well. And then you could follow along with what I write for Zero Hedge. And it's loaded with all kinds of trade ideas and investment ideas. So as I've been doing in recent months, I've been showing you the trade of the week. And this week we have a great trade in Ford Motor Company. Now this started on October 15th. I'm going to go over the details here in a moment. But first, understand this is not a recommendation or a claim of income percentages or anything like that. It's simply a report card for educational purposes only. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the signals that we were looking at on October 15th and what we're seeing now as the candles are now shifting to the downside in a pivot. So as of October 21st, the calls that we bought here for 85 cents, we're trading for $1.23. So here in a 6 calendar day window, we have a 44.7% increase in the premium of that option right there. And so let's take a look at what we saw on October 15th. Now, as I zoom in here, you could see that this was a trading channel that we were looking at the time of the report that went out. And right here on that candle, I don't know if you could see, it's that little green candle. That's October 15th when the publication went out. And that's when we bought the calls on Ford Motor Company. Now, you could see that if you take a trading checklist, the stochastic was heading up just before it was a buy signal. The CCI had already crossed with a buy signal. The volume was dropping here on the way down, which is bullish. And I had a target up here by the resistance area. Now, as of today, you could see that Ford is pivoting lower. And like I've said many times before, if you're a member and you have this position, if I'm reporting on it, it's basically the trade is over. The technical signals are starting to shift. And as I tell people all the time, don't turn winners into losers. Take those profits because you can't lose money taking profits, that's for sure. So that's the Ford trade. Now, we do a lot of this through our Matrix service, which is the option directional trade service. We also have services for option spread traders and equity traders. And now we're coming out with the CryptX services for crypto traders. And we're very, very excited about what's going on here with StickyTrades and the coaches that we have coming on board. So that is the report for this Thursday, October 23rd. Thank you so much for liking and sharing and subscribing to our channel. And of course, commenting. I do my best to address every comment and answer every question I possibly can. And it does keep me busy, but I am committed to doing my very best, like I said before, to help you learn about the markets and trading and managing risk. So you have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk to you next time. So long.